Hey, Chicago. What do you say? Cubs gonna win today.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
This episode is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. Didn't file with TurboTax last year? That's in the past. Now, Taxes is getting the TurboTax app and filing your own taxes for free if you didn't file with them last year. File by February 18th. All tax forms, all 100% free. Now, this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. New filers and filers who didn't use TurboTax last year only must start and file your own taxes in-app by February 18th. Excludes TurboTax Live. Full terms at TurboTax.com.
Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise podcast. It's time for the Cubs podcast, brought to you by our partners, Victory Auto Wreckers. With me, as always, is Oleg, and filling in for Mike Praznowski, who didn't want to spend his 30th birthday hanging out with us. Can you believe this?
I cannot.
We've gone to the bullpen, and we've brought in someone to help us remember crap. Mike Donahue is here. Mike, how are you?
Good, Andy. I come here to bury Kyle Hendricks. How does one go? Not to praise him. No, I'm here to praise him too. But Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. The Cubs made a flurry of roster moves on Tuesday, most of which were spoiled on Monday night when someone went in and used the Google machine to see MLB.com had actually put the transactions up. And we saw that Dansby Swanson was returning from the injured list. Everyone's favorite player, Miles Mastrobuoni, was headed back to Iowa. But then there was a subsequent move. We had heard that Cubs prospect Luis Vazquez was going to come up to presumably make his MLB debut. We learned that because a reporter named Jorge Castillo reported it and sourced much, I'm sure, to Taylor McGregor's jealousy. Is that the right word? He sourced to Luis's mom because Jorge is Luis's cousin.
Yeah, I was going to say that was somebody like fired back at him, or who is this guy? And turns out
she's got a second source. Just the mom.
I didn't know that. Now I get the reference that I guess that's funny.
And so then somebody had to go down because of Luis. So we all thought, okay, well, not we all, but those of us who were really hoping this would be true were like, oh, well, let's see. Vazquez is an infielder. He spent the last 4 games at Iowa playing third base, which he had never done before. Although probably just because they wanted to. Who wouldn't want to watch David Bodie play shortstop? I figured, he's getting ready for the Nick Madrigal role, and sure enough, Petecrow Armstrong got sent down instead.
Yeah. One name conspicuously missing from the transaction log.
I don't know. We're stuck. I just feel like we're stuck with this guy forever.
We're not.
Like, he's going to be a Cub until 2040. It's just, do we think there is, that's the only reason I could think he's still on the team. There's a Jed Hoyer PP tape that Nick Madrigal has a copy of?
Here's what I think. I think that he's around because the Ricketts want to save money because he's the only one who's willing to play Clark the Cub without pants on.
Good.
Anyone else they'd have to spring for a pair of pants for Clark.
But who does he, when he gets in the suit, whose shoulders does he stand on?
They've got those.
You got the little clown stilts, the little like painter's stilts.
Yeah, or
furry
you ever
legs.
see those like there's a woman in my neighborhood who walks her dog on these like weird spring shoes.
Yeah.
Like they're like these.
Okay. Nick
like,
could use those.
That's what I kind of figured that he's on.
It could be it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we solved it.
It is remarkable, and like I happen to have caught where you mentioned the slack. Like you're almost like self-conscious about bringing too much Madrigal hate. Yeah. But here's the thing: it's not like you guys are like screaming into the void. I don't hear anybody mainstream. I was listening to the score this afternoon. I mean, they're all over. They're mystified. Like Parkins and I just happened to catch them, and Andy, you've been beating the drum, for a long time, but you're spot on. I feel like every day we get further away from his tenure at the White Sox, just the more ridiculous keeping him around seems. And it just to me, it does seem a matter of time. I think like it's kind of mystifying that this wasn't the week. I don't take it as a sign that means that he's impervious. I just think they just for some reason Jed's dragging it out, but it's nobody. When I see people push back, I saw somebody on Twitter, some anonymous asshole, Andy, when you made some crack at it. It's like, fuck you, just very inelegant. I'm like, you've got to be a relative. Like what's your stake here at this point?
That was my mom. I'm just used to it by now. Well, that's mean.
Yeah.
I mean, in the newsletter today, I tried to reason it, and the closest thing to a reason I could come up with was because Dansby and Nico are back, but they're both coming off injury. That they wanted to they needed to upgrade over those two, and they feel like maybe Vasquez will be, but they didn't want to leave themselves without either of those other guys in case during a game they've got to replace the second baseman and the shortstop. So if I would have kept Mastrobuoni.
Yeah.
And you wrote about that because he can even steal a base.
Right.
He
can actually play defense at the positions instead of.
What can Nick do that he can't is the question. Yeah.
Well, he does hit more singles because Miles only has like 4 hits.
Yeah. Right. So he is a better hitter, I guess.
But it doesn't. We've been through this a million times. I mean, we spent 20 minutes last week talking about what would Nick Madrigal have to hit,
right,
to be worth it on a big league roster.
And you asked Dave Brown that too, and I think the consensus is like 330.
Yeah,
that's
Dave actually was higher than me. Yeah, just because you don't get anything else.
No,
and you just can't. It doesn't. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish with this?
At least the one thing, thank heavens for small blessings, is that the manager at least doesn't buy in. I feel like at least had David Ross still been here, I think we should be fucking around with not knowing whether or not Morel can play. At least Counsell said, I'm throwing that guy out there, and I wonder if Counsell's like, I'm just going to throw him out there enough to keep convincing Jed to get him off my fucking roster. I have to think that because Counsell has made enough right moves now that's at least reassured me that he's sort of been the anti-Ross.
So this is kind of the reverse Lenny Harris.
Oh,
remember when Hendry had to release Lenny Harris because Dusty kept starting him at third base.
Yeah. Right.
Well, he's like, no, he's not supposed to be playing third. He's supposed to just pinch hit like 3 times a week.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to play every day. Even when he was young, he was a terrible fielder, and he's old as shit. Why are you? Oh, he was one of my guys. I got to play my guys. It's like, gee, all right, your guy is off, and then he ended up getting a World Series ring with the Marlins.
Right. Well, Mark Bellhorn clogs the bases, bro.
It's like that scene in Moneyball. They can't play Carlos Pena at first base. Lineup's fine. No, I traded him. That's what he's forcing.
And then this is right? Then Dusty's obsession with Lenny cost the Cubs the pennant.
Yeah, we've talked about it.
He pitched to Mike Lowell because he was afraid if he pitched around him that Lenny Harris would pinch it, and then it's like, Jesus Christ.
It came full circle. Yeah, it did. We hashed that over pretty good. And it is the reverse. This is more, I think, the standard case of a manager being like, he's on my roster. I'm going to try to use him to win if I can, but Jesus Christ, like, that's a real finite number of situations. And otherwise, I'm just hoping to give him enough rope to hang himself and get him off the roster. How is it
that the Bears gave Dave Wannstedt full roster control, And the Cubs don't give it to Craig Counsell.
Yeah.
Maybe Pat Riley has an answer. Not the best.
You mean
The Miami, the
torn ACL, Pat Riley?
Yes.
Carlos Huerta?
Huh.
Yeah.
That was a Wani.
Not to get too far off track, but you see that Eddie Pinheiro is holding out and not going to OTAs?
He was the best player on the Panthers last year.
Anyway.
Uh,
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it will be interesting to see if the Cubs continue to do the Christopher Morels, the 7-inning third baseman, and then he goes and spends a little time in the dugout. Who the guy is who comes and plays third base? If it's Vasquez or if it's Madrigal.
Well, I feel like actually to your point, and I don't know, I still don't know why it can't be Mastroboni, but to your point, like, because the two middle infielders are a little fragile, you almost have to keep two other infielders around. Just in case two guys get hurt, just in case you need a late inning replacement and somebody gets hurt.
Does Madrigal even play shortstop? When's the last time he couldn't even fill in there? Right, he's third, second,
junior high, maybe.
Well, I assume he was drafted as a shortstop, right? Or
I don't think so. He was a second baseman. His whole draft pick it's a mystery.
Well, I think we're paying the price, right?
What the White Sox ever saw in that, and then the Cubs clearly, at least some of the Cubs who were there in 21,
kind of compounded.
Must have seen the same thing because they were like, well, that's why.
And
I was so a little inside baseball for you folks at home. So when I was looking to see, a couple of times I used everything about Twitter sucks and the search doesn't work as well as it used to either, but I searched for it hoping I was going to see that Nick had been sent down the other day. And instead, so then I hit top, and one of the top tweets is from 2021. It was Jeff Passan basically talking about what a heist the Cubs got when they traded. What a huge price the White Sox paid to get Craig Kimbrell, and that they had to give up Nick Madrigal and Cody Hoyer, and how
God damn
you could rebuild the next 5 years in 30 seconds at the trade deadline. Now it's been 3 years. Is that enough?
And like I alluded to, that every day that goes by, we're further away from the Sox. Because if anything, it's even now more hilariously an awful draft pick that the Cubs compounded by basically letting Rick Hahn off the hook. But he did put together a glimmer with the Sox that probably made it last longer than it should too. So at the time of the trade, it was still probably ridiculous at the time. But at least there was a little bit of data there that we have come nowhere close in approaching since. So I don't know why Jed just can't cut bait. It was dumb that he basically bailed out Han and took the debt.
Well, the next hope has got to be that when Horner and Swanson prove to be completely healthy, they can just. Is
that pretty much it? So it's just basically he bought himself 10 days until their hamstrings or whatever, their bodies heal.
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. Hopefully that's it.
Yeah.
Well, Nick played 23 games as shortstop for Corvallis in the
college
West Coast League before his freshman. That was his senior year in high school. Then at Oregon State, he played. He only played one game at short as a junior, but he played 25 as a sophomore and 7 as a freshman.
Oh wait, he's actually from Corvallis because that's where Oregon State is.
Yeah, I guess.
So,
let's see.
He was like a townie. That's ridiculous.
Well, he's from. Ola, you know where he's from.
Is he from the Ukraine?
He's from Elk Grove, California.
Oh,
yeah, he's an Elk Grove boy.
Just like Dave Otto and Lance Briggs and Bill Cartwright.
Yeah,
Lance Briggs
from Elk Grove, California.
Yeah.
Let's see. In the minors, let's see. He has played. How many games he played at shortstop?
0.
Yeah.
So he was drafted because I used to think Todd for a while. It must have been an emergency situation. I used to think that Todd Walker was the first and for a while the only player to have ever been drafted as a second baseman, because the thinking is all second basemen were originally drafted as shortstops. I'm sure in the age of specialization, I'm sure maybe that has not been the case. And clearly Madrigal But that just makes me more frustrated. You can't even be good enough to be drafted as a shortstop, and you're 5'3". How can you get drafted fourth? How did that happen?
I do remember a bit of a brouhaha when Ricky Weeks went second.
Yeah,
as a second.
It's Andy's guy. Okay,
yeah.
All right. That was after Walker, but yeah, okay.
Ricky could not have played shortstop.
Uh-huh.
Ricky really couldn't play second. There's no way he could have played short.
All right. So, but it makes it more absurd then, though, too. Then, like what? So, drafted at that position, at that height, at that point in the draft.
Darwin Barney was probably a shortstop at Oregon State, right?
It's a good comp. He's another Oregon State guy, I think.
Gold Glover Darwin Barney.
Yeah, right? I was going to say he's not even a good comp because he actually played. He was a
decent
excellent defensive player.
Yeah. Dandy little Keystone player.
Mike Fontenot, though, was probably drafted as a second baseman because Ryan Terrio was our shortstop. I mean, no way he had beat out the Riot.
No.
What a stud.
No.
Well, it's not being drafted as a second baseman. It's being drafted that high as a second baseman.
That's true.
It's both, but yes. Right.
The other interesting thing is that the Padres, I think, have 8 shortstops.
Yes. That's the way to do it because shortstops are your best goddamn fielders. They
built their whole team out of shortstops.
Shortstop, center field, middle of the diamond, and worry about it. If you can play short, theoretically, you ought to be able to play anywhere in the goddamn diamond, except for the battery. Of the 7 non-battery positions, shortstop ought to be able to play every single one of them.
Yep.
Did Jody Davis get drafted as a shortstop?
Probably. He saw church the other day, didn't he? Thought I heard that in the car.
I think he did.
Yeah.
Anyway, the countdown to Madrigal's departure, I'm confident, is underway.
So you think it's going to happen? You think this year,
by the
at
All-Star
some point,
break, he will not be on the team,
right? Even when he goes away, he won't really go away because
he can go down
to
Iowa.
Goes to Iowa.
Yeah, they're not cutting him.
They could have him. He's got 2 options left.
So
he's got this year, and they could do it next year too. How fun! I was serious though. I wonder if they DFA'd him, if anyone would claim him. I think
why?
He would breeze past the White Sox. They
There's no way he'd last till the Braves, so they'd have to work out a deal that the Braves wanted him.
So they could finally bench Ozzie Albies.
Yeah.
Now we got a real second baseman.
Oh man.
Brian Snitker, big Nick Madrigal fan. People don't know that.
I think you pointed this out with Dave, and I said that I had a friend who was a huge Nick Madrigal fan and was very, very upset when he was traded. And I don't understand why the Cubs need him when they have Nico Horner, when they have a better player.
Right. You pointed that out.
In 21. Right. Is that when did he get drafted? In 18?
Same draft.
No, right.
Same draft. One of them went 4th, one went 23rd.
Right.
It had to be that they honestly thought that he was going to, Nico was going to play short and stick there, and Madrigal was going to play second, and they were going to have the most punchless middle infield ever assembled. But they were going to play just like Ozzie Smith and Tommy Hurt, and the Cubs were going to win lots of World Series. It's going to be great.
Yes.
If Nick Madrigal sniffs 100 RBIs for his career, like
Tommy
Henry did.
We did it with 9 home runs.
9 home runs.
Fewer than 10, yeah.
When I did the math, and I saw that 80% of his career hits were singles, I honestly thought that was low. When I was figuring it in my head, I'm like, ooh, I bet it's got to be close to 90%. It was only 80.
It's still absurd.
It's terrible. It's embarrassing.
All right. Enough.
Anyway, so we'll see if
make it stop.
We'll see if Luis Vazquez. Do we know what number Luis Vazquez is, so I can go get my jersey made?
Let's see. 12. Dusty's old number.
Oh.
Sean's old number. Schwarb's old number.
Schwarber. Oh,
Cody Hoyer's old number, right?
Is that right?
Perhaps.
I think that's right.
Brought this conversation all the way back.
Well, good. I got to get an order out. Vazquez 12, and I want the little numbers, and I want or letters, and then that nice arch. So that looks good. I want that forever.
Nice.
I don't know if you guys saw this. Did you see that the Cardinals have their new City Connects finally? And they're these like awful red. They say the Lou on them instead of St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh, perfect.
But the best was their shortstop, Mason Wynn. A reporter asked him in the clubhouse what he thought of them. And he just stood there and he's like, they're City Connects. So he clearly hates them, which was great. They're terrible.
Well, clearly no one in the Cardinals design department has ever been to London.
The Lou.
Yeah, the Lou.
It's perfect.
I think Frank pointed that out.
Some jokes write themselves.
The Lou.
Yeah, that's anything. Well, I would get. Chip probably says that like 40 times a game, right? Chip would love to call St. Louis the Lou.
Yeah.
I don't know when it is, but sometime I think in the next month, Cardinals very special broadcast. It's just going to be Joe Buck and Chip Carey.
Okay, but I will have to say, I think we've all come to the agreement that Joe Buck has sort of aged. Okay, right?
Yeah,
we're big enough to admit that. Chip Carey is
fine.
Eternally.
It helped, I think, when he got out of St. Louis.
Yeah, I agree. No, he used to be insufferable. You can go all the way back to the 1996 World Series. If you go way back, he was. But I give him credit. Chip, though, will just be forever a scourge on our ears.
Joe has even said as much as he looks back at some of the early World Series clinchers that he called, and that he's embarrassed that he didn't get excited because he felt like he was purposely trying not to. And he's like, I didn't. There's a moment to meet, and I feel like I didn't meet the moment. Fans are going to listen to that call forever. And he's like, I don't think for the first 6 that I did a good job. And I think, his call of the Cubs final out is really good.
Yeah, better than Pat's. We've discussed it.
Well, but the good thing for Joe was he didn't have to cram a fucking State Farm ad in the middle of his.
Right.
Like Pat did.
Yeah, or North Shore adult diapers. I drove by there, by the way. It's right off the interstate. Just pointing that out. Went up to a baseball game up in Waukegan on Sunday. And, look at there. North Shore Adult Diapers. Their headquarters right off of 94 up there, Lake County. So.
They're corporate headquarters? Don't be embarrassed. If you had to swing by to pick up your monthly allotment.
I said I was driving by on the expressway.
There was a spill, and I just pulled in to see if I could get some to help out.
They insisted I take some as a reward.
There's a tanker truck tipped over, and I need some of your high quality, high absorbent diapers to soak it up. Now that's who I should go. I should go after them to see if they want to sponsor Points Exercise. It's clearly they're throwing ad money around.
Yeah.
So we could do I'm
not too proud.
A marathon podcast.
Right. Like any of those 3-hour podcasts that we've done, Andy, where I'm about 7 beers in and I'm just I don't want to have to get up.
We have to pause so you can go. We won't be no pausing anymore.
Go right there.
Think what it would be for a little Bert Taylor's 24-hour blogathon.
At the trade deadline?
Look, I know he raises money for charity, so I shouldn't make fun of it. But to me, it's hilarious that that's a thing, considering if he really wanted to, he could easily just schedule some posts and go to bed, and no one would know.
Right.
No, be the wiser.
It's not like when Parkins does the stupid radio one, and he's
But he's
live.
on the air. Yeah,
he's a fucking blogger who's like, oh, here I am typing at my 3:30 in the morning. Oh, are you? Really?
Put your camera on, dude. That's what I would say. Put your camera on. Yeah. Just open up a meeting and share your screen.
Well, now he's got Howard Ankin up his ass. There's no way he's going to be able. He's going to have to do it. Howard's going to want to see the math. Make sure he's getting his money's worth.
Is that right?
Oh, do you not know this?
No. What is this?
Oh, Howard, the Ankin Law is now like the title sponsor for Bleacher Nation.
Is that
wow.
Yeah, and Bert announced that that money is gonna allow them to do a lot of fun things this summer. Okay, good. Okay, great. I don't know what was stopping you before.
That's no Victory Auto Records, so
yeah, right. That's why I said we're brought to you by Victory Auto Records. I went out, I immediately got a deal with a defunct
that's the joke.
salvage
I
yard.
get it.
Payday loans turned me down in more ways than one. And I went to VAR and said, "Hey guys," and they're like, "We're not even in business anymore, but fine. You want to say it? We'll say it."
What did they do with all the cars? Did they really go out of business?
Yeah,
I mean,
don't know if somebody else owns the yard now, or they just.
Oh.
What do you do with a junkyard when it's not a junk? Isn't it always a junkyard?
Yeah, how do you go out of business? Like what? You always have assets, right? Because you have junk.
Parts to sell. Maybe they ran out of parts to sell. We should take a trip over to Green Street in Bensonville. Check it out. Not too far.
Do a pointless exercise investigative report. Sir, what are you hiding back here? We think you're still in business. Is this some kind of tax scam? Don't make us call Howard Ankin. We'll do it.
That has to be something that you post at 3:30 in the morning.
I'll save that for my blogathon.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, anyway, so it's kind of speaking of announcers. Oh, no, there was something about Madrigal I wanted to say first about this. So before the power went out, one guy on the score who has not been afraid to tell everyone how terrible Nick Madrigal is for a very long time is Lawrence Holmes, who hated him when he was a White Sox and was like super excited that they got rid of him. And last year when Nick had that, I don't know if you remember this, there was like he was bad, he got sent down, he came back, and then for like 3 weeks he was good. And then he was terrible again for the rest of the year and got hurt twice, I think. And that was when he bumped into the wall in Milwaukee and somehow blew out his hamstring and had to go back on the injured list. And even while he was supposedly good, Lawrence would go to great pains to explain to you how even when he's productive, he's not helping.
Right.
Which I enjoyed. But if you watched Marquee, you would have no idea he's not the greatest player ever. Yeah. He's Nicky Two Strikes. And he's such a gritty little guy. It's like, Jesus, I wonder, I don't wonder, if the games were still on Comcast Sportsnet, I don't think they would be hammering Nick Madrigal, but I also don't think they would be pretending that he could play.
Going out of their way to praise him.
It's my big frustration with Happ too, is the idea that you're never going to get an objective look at, maybe this isn't a little slump. They're just going to wish him back to being good and tell you how, it's great. I enjoyed in the thing Sahadev wrote about how the 2 days off against the Braves last week, we're going to completely fix Happ and everything would be fine. And then he hit a home run in his first at bat, and he hasn't had a hit since. But there's a quote in there from Dustin Kelly saying the good news is we don't need to change anything with his swing. It's fine. Is that the good news? Wouldn't good news be, no, we saw he's doing this, and all we got to do is get him back to the way he was, he'll be fine? To me, that's like really bad news. When you look at his swing, you're like, no, the swing is fine.
We're all out of ideas.
Yeah. Maybe you just suck now. Whoops.
It happens. Is this our segue to happen? Wow! I was not even making a pun. I swear to God. I was just going on the fact that I feel like Happ, to me, was always a colossal disappointment. But I kind of wrote him off after. I guess it would have to be 2021 when they ended up selling everybody, because I feel like for like 3 straight years he just kept going. Okay, this is the year. And it'd show tiny little mouse farts of flashes, but then it never amounted to anything. I'm like, God, he never got on track. And then he finally did, but it was like too late. And then he became the toast of the town, and he's been like the longest serving guy here. But like whatever of a death rattle or whatever you want to call the last year and a half when he was actually kind of a competent ball player, I think it's just we're past it now. So that was his peak.
He was, before the trade deadline in 2021, literally one of the worst players in the National League. He was terrible. In fact, Ross benched him. And then they traded everybody. And there was nobody left. And then as soon as nobody cared and we stopped watching, he finally put up decent numbers the rest of the year.
For a long period of time,
We were so close to him just being gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to them being like, well, that shit didn't work. And instead, Not only did they keep him, then they gave him a 3-year contract with a no trade.
Yeah, look at a lifeline. And had he performed as we had hoped, I'm not going to blame him for it. He was obviously trying. He just wasn't what we thought he was. But Eddie, the whole trajectory could have been different. I don't know. I mean, it's a lot to put on him, but
they drafted him he was supposed to be a switch hitting second baseman with power,
right?
And then he became a switch hitting center fielder with power,
and then he
became a switch hitting left fielder, with diminishing power. And then when you looked back, it's like he never really was a switch hitter because he can't hit right-handed at all. And he's like everybody else. Once they gave up on the World Series team, everybody got graded on a curve, and he did fine. And he ingratiated himself to the TV network with the world's dullest podcast, and then a fucking vanity project coffee thing, and he's Obvious Shirt's favorite player. And he's just still here. And when they signed him to the extension, it's like, do you really you already have Seiya in right field at the time, the next 4 years. He's got 3 years with a no trade. And, they were going to go out and they had signed Cody Bellinger to try to rehab his career in center. They supposedly have all these prospects coming, the greatest farm system of all time. And you basically you locked in left field with a guy who was okay, right? Like Ian Happ is not, although he is this year, but he's not a bad baseball player.
No, I think you guys mentioned in a previous podcast, he's actually
really good at anything.
He's he could be a decent fourth outfielder, although even at this point he should probably hit a little bit more. But at this point, I think even 32-year-old journeyman Mike Tauchman has basically passed him up on the current team.
Is easily a better. This year, it's not even. You wouldn't even compare the two. Happ is awful.
You don't need him in left field. Left field should be where, all right, these guys are pretty good. Let's try them there.
Yep.
Right. Even prospects who come up, whatever. Unless they're exceptional, because you've got two pretty good outfielders with Bellinger, and even if Petecrow is the center fielder, you've got a good defensive outfield, and then there's Happ, and you don't really need you don't need Ian Happ.
Well, he's on the payroll until 2026. This is the first
two-time reigning Gold Glove winner in left field. Don't tell me he's not a great outfielder.
That's a good point.
So this is the first.
I guess you could because he's not.
Yeah. This is the first year of that 3-year deal or extension or whatever it was. And so I know that you didn't draw this up as part of the agenda, but I'm a little frustrated now that this is going on. And I don't know if this is an aberration, but I can't imagine it is. But I think we all saw the hot streak that former number one prospect Brennan Davis was on a week ago. I feel like, I'm not second guessing I'm second guessing signing Happ to 3 years, but obviously part of it was made because they had pretty much figured that Davis was never coming back. And I don't know if this is just itself an aberration, but God, I was like, call his ass up. I was a little frustrated because I heard I saw Matt Clapp was like, well, in fairness, he wasn't even on anyone's scout's radar a week ago. But I'm like, it's not like he was a Bobby Scales that came out of the blue. He was the number one prospect before he got hurt, and now he's doing what he was doing 2 years ago. But there doesn't seem to be there seems to be very little movement to somehow. I know logistically it's not possible because they don't really need Happ notwithstanding outfield help, but I don't know. Any thoughts on Brennan Davis realistically joining the team anytime soon?
I mean,
can you just move Happ? Can you say, hey, Ian, you're benched, and if we need you, you can. He can't be any worse than Madrigal, maybe backing up third or second, right? Put him there at this point. Get him up.
Brennan Davis?
No, Happ.
I mean,
have him back up at third and second?
Sure.
We know he won't do that. I remember what happened. So last year in the game where Madrigal got hurt in Milwaukee, the Cubs are up 6-0 in the third inning, and little Nicky bumps into the wall on a one of those foul balls. It's 8 rows back, and he nudges the sidewall, and then he somehow blew out his hamstring touching it. And David Ross, his only solution was Christopher Morel, the DH, is now the third baseman. They gave up the DH in the third inning of a game that they eventually lost. And Michael Fulmer had to bat in the fifth inning. And that one was, I've gone through one of the podcasts before about the fact that there were multiple Wisdom was on the injured list and Madrigal was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
The easy move would have been, I remember the great Jared Young. That was like the month he was up.
Yeah.
So he was playing first, but he had played first and third in the minors that year for Iowa.
Yeah.
So you could have put the great Trey Mancini in at first and had Young go play third and have Morel stay so you don't blow the DH that early in the game. And then later in the game, you could have put Morel at third.
Yeah.
Ironic that putting Morel in late in the game would have been fine then, when now you can't get him off the field fast enough. But the other move that you really probably should have made is Happ should have come in and played third base for the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying
the guy
that
who played
refused?
infield forever? I'm not.
Right.
I guarantee you, Ross didn't ask him.
Right. That's
but
what I'm
sure
thinking.
Ross knew he probably wasn't going to want to do it.
Okay. Well, he doesn't have any currency anymore to like have any influence on where he plays.
Yeah, like if Council tells you, Council's not going to ask him to play third. Council's going to hand him Morel's mitt and tell him to go play third.
Yeah.
And he might suck, but I don't know how much worse he could be.
That was the whole
And
idea.
it's more about hiding him.
Now, as a player, wouldn't you want to do that? Well, you have nothing to lose.
Prove yourself
If you
useful.
come in out of left field, you're like, holy shit, look at this. He's going to play third the rest of the game. I mean, Anthony Rizzo went over and played third, and he thought it was the coolest thing that ever happened in the world, that the left-handed guy was going to play third base for the Cubs. He loved that. If Happ makes an error or two, he's the left fielder who in emergency duty had to go play third. It's not like, I can't believe Ian Happ fucked that up or whatever. You honestly, all you can get is credit for doing that.
I wouldn't care.
And you really would have wanted him to go told Ross, no, don't blow the DH this early. I'll play third. I can do it.
Yes,
I've done it before.
that's true.
I've played. At that point, he probably played more games at third base in the big leagues than Christopher Morel had.
I think Ian Happ and David Ross probably share a brain. I don't know that.
Maybe.
That was his boy.
Very rigid. Well, I felt like in the past week, the Cubs offense has hit a slump. I think the injuries have caught up with them.
Yeah.
I just felt, and finding a way to get Davis up would have been nice, but apparently there's just too many machinations to work.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
hopefully he's still hitting.
There are ways.
He's on the 40-man already. Sorry.
I mean, you could make the argument. That was what I was trying to do today, trying to think it through, trying to actually give them credit instead of like, we're too stupid. Okay, when they had the meeting, why is Madrigal still here? Because one of the things you could have done, if you decide, all right, Pete is helping us, but he's not playing very much. Let's get him another month worth of at bats at Iowa, then we can bring him back for the rest of the year. The move there is Brennan is hot. He comes up. He takes Pete's spot for a while. You try to play the hot hand. If Brennan Davis keeps hitting, you're great. If he doesn't, well, he got some big league exposure. We're going to switch him back. And that my thought was maybe they felt like right now they had to have an extra tiny little body to put in the middle infield in an emergency.
It all comes back to the sort of precarious nature of Horner and Swanson, I guess. All of these things I feel like I don't know.
Well, Brennan Davis probably needs time. He needs regular at bats also because he's just missed so much time. So that might be
he can't play left field for the Cubs. Have Talkman be the fourth outfielder, Bellinger in center.
No,
I know.
Well, there's ways to do it. You could get him at bats.
Yeah. Well, probably. Of course, he'd probably cool off the moment he came up because he's not going to hit like he was anyway. Probably wasted it already.
I thought the lineup tonight was dumb for two reasons. Number one, Happ was still hitting fifth, and he probably hit a home run, but Happ was hitting fifth. You got the other guys back. I thought the whole idea was you could take him and move him way down, have him hit seventh or eighth. But the worst one for me was Talkman is playing, but is DHing. Like if he's going to play, he should be in the outfield. It's one of his strength. He has like three strengths. He walks a lot.
Yeah.
He doesn't make a lot of outs, and he's a good defensive outfielder. He's better than Ian Happ is in left field. So he should. If those are your four outfielders, unless you're resting, like Talkman shouldn't DH. In that rotation, Talkman should be spelling one of the three guys.
At least in the corner.
So they're DHing. So Cody gets an extra day off because he just goes to DH, or Seiya gets a day off because we pretend like, well, Seiya's been back for a week and a half and he's fine now. Well, I mean he's playing with a healing injury too. And then supposedly, I mean, I'm surprised they haven't tried to blame Happ's struggles on the hamstring that he's hurt twice. He hurt it in spring and then he aggravated it again. Well, if that's the case, get him a bunch of at-bats where he doesn't have to play in the outfield, especially since I know he's won the Gold Glove twice, but he's not. He's the fourth best defensive outfielder on your team. Treat him like it.
fifth best if you
Fifth.
kind of
Well, fifth is Pete is there. Right now he's the fourth because they only have four.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. They only have four.
Although
You're
someone
right.
pointed out Patrick Wisdom is there. He counts.
Corner
There's a couple
outfielder.
more out there. You got.
But it does. It gets back to the why did they give him the? Honestly, I felt like they gave him that contract because he said yes. Because Jed was tired of taking shit for never re-signing anybody, and you could see it. Like, this is the guy we're going to re-sign,
Right?
Really?
It's such a safe move because he has that Q factor in Chicago and all that shit. So
but
it's not like Milton Bradley or something.
But even if you didn't think, even if you thought Brennan Davis's back injury had taken him off the radar forever, you had other guys coming up. You have the great Owen Casey.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Kevin Alcantara.
Mm-hmm.
You had Morel, who he didn't have a position for. There were other guys you could easily look and go, all right, we probably shouldn't lock up. And Pete was going to be your center fielder when Cody left. You were just going to lock your outfield up with those prospects that weren't going to have anywhere to play. And worse than just locking it up is you can't trade either of your corner outfielders, even if you wanted to. You wouldn't want to trade Seiya, but you might want to trade Happ. You can't. You gave him a no trade.
Yeah.
Well, you could convince him to take. The other thing about it is it's almost it's like what they're trying to do is sort of with the pitching staff, where you just sort of like kind of replace guys and as they come in, but they're not doing that with the outfield. Like, you're right, there's no reason why Happ should be playing. And even if you're giving these kids some at bats here or there, that's sort of akin to your suggestion what they should do with Cade Horton, put him in the bowl.
Yeah,
like, let the kids play a little bit. Let them come in. Let them get 10 at bats a week, 10 plate appearances a week, and see what happens.
By the way, I just wanted to point out, Andy was like, well, Happ is probably blown up tonight. No, he's 0 for 2, and now he's down to 205. His OPS is down to 617, and it is the third lowest OPS amongst everybody in tonight's lineup.
Would you like a? It's a podcast, so it's ridiculous to do a live update. But as of 7:58 p.m. Central Time on May 21st, the Cubs starting left fielder is slugging .298.
Oh, he's under 300.
I'd be pissed off of the on base percentage.
Miguel Amaya's 535 OPS and Zach Short's 518 are the only OPSs in tonight's lineup that's lower than Ian Happ's.
Figures that Zach Short is an old Cubs farmhand, huh?
Hey,
he's on
Ian Happ's podcast. He's one of those.
Perfect.
Yes, he's one of those guys.
It's sort of like
he's still on it.
We talked earlier about Madrigal standing on somebody's shoulders. If you combine Short's OPS and Happ's, you're over 1,000. It's like 1.12. So almost 1.2. That's almost getting a Barry Bonds territory, man.
That was your point about the Cubs catchers, Andy.
Gotcha. That's right.
They're OPSing 1,000.
Yeah,
that's right.
Together,
they're William Contreras if you add them together. How about the Brewers getting him for nothing?
It wasn't quite for nothing.
It was pretty close. That trade they didn't get. They didn't give up hardly anything.
Wasn't that the Sean Murphy trade?
Yeah, but they didn't give up Sean Murphy.
Well, they gave up. No. They gave up. Oh, the Brewers.
The Brewers.
Yeah,
they were like the third team. They were it was like Jim Hendry was wheeling and dealing and needed another team. It's one of those trades. And they're like, wait a minute, we're going to get a starting catcher and we don't have to give up squat. Let's see what they gave up. Nothing like looking shit up live on the pod, but let's do it.
Yeah.
The Braves, let's see.
Yeah.
He was traded with Justin Yeager to the Brewers. The A's sent Sean Murphy to the Braves. The A's sent the great Joel Payamps to the Brewers. Yeah. The Braves traded Royber Salinas, Kyle Muller, Manny Pena, and Freddie Tarnock to the A's. And the Brewers sent Esteury Ruiz to the A's.
He turned out to be all right.
Yeah, actually, he's no. Last year, he led the American League of Stolen Bases, 67.
Oh, okay.
And this year, his slugging is 90 points better than Ian Happ.
Oh, 388.
382.
382?
Yeah, what is Happ? 298?
You said 298.
Yeah, so not quite that much.
He's hitting fifth.
So they traded Esteury Ruiz and they got William Contreras and
Joel Payamps.
Yeah.
was not
It's
bad.
basically just the Braves are just handing players to Cubs division rivals. Knock it off, assholes.
Seriously.
There's a reason we hate you.
Huh.
Uh,
That would have been a baller move for the Cubs, though, to have traded for William.
Yeah. To replace Wilson eventually.
Place his brother.
It's a pretty good segue to ask about Cody Bellinger, huh?
Yeah, so my question to you guys about Cody Bellinger is, he has his of the Boris guys who had to get the pillow contracts. His is good. His stands out among the others because the other guys like Blake Snell, we didn't call Ian this time, so that's progress. Blake Snell, Matt Chapman, and Jordan Montgomery. Although Jordan's is a little more like Cody's. The other guys all have a huge, like this was the year that you get big money this year, and then your salary goes way down next year, but you opt out.
Yeah.
But Cody's is $30 million this year and $30 million next year, and then it goes down to 20. And I kind of felt like when he signed it that it's a 2-year deal. It's not a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Because Cody's going to go back on the market, which might be worse next year. Usually the free agent market gets worse the closer you get to a new CBA. Owners start to like tighten shit down. So like the year a CBA gets signed, the owner's like, fuck it. They throw a bunch of money around. The next year they throw a little bit more. As they see the new one coming up, they start stuffing money in their pants again. And the fact I figured Cody's probably not going to have as good a year. But so here's a question I asked. So this year he's been hitting very well since he came off the injured list. But he's hitting almost 40 points less than he was last year. His on-base average is down 15 points, and his slug is down about 35.
So far.
But he's OPSing 829. The funny thing is his OPS plus last year was 134. This year it's 133.
Mm-hmm.
So according to OPS plus, he's the same player.
Sure.
If he had that, if he roughly had the same season as last year, the Cubs would take that. It was a very good season.
Mm-hmm.
Does he look at it as, all right, fine, I'm going to opt out and I'm going to go for it again? Or does he go, I like it here, I'll take $30 million and then next year, I'm not going to play for 20, but this year I'll play for 30 and then next year I'll go see if I can get my long deal.
I think he can get more than $50 million in the free agents this year if he continues to have an 830 OPS or whatever it is. I think he could get more than $50 million. And he can't get the qualifying offer, right? Because he's already had it once. Or no, he hasn't. Or no, the Cubs gave it to him last year.
Yeah, he did have it last year. And he can't.
He can't get the qualifying
You can only
offer
get it once time.
Yeah.
Right, so that will be
I think he will opt out.
Although I feel like teams use that as I know the Cubs do.
Yeah.
That's an excuse not to sign somebody.
I agree.
Oh, no. We'd love to. Oh, gosh.
Oh, for sure.
We would so love to sign that guy. But we can't give up our precious comp pick in the middle of the first and second round. It's like, what?
I think he will opt out.
If he plays like
if he continues. Like, if he gets not, the only way that he won't opt out is if we really want him to opt out.
Yeah. Right. If he gets hurt, or if he gets hurt again.
Right. But if he gets hurt, I think that he's still okay at $30 million next year. Let's, bring it all back. Like, I wouldn't mind. I think this is the one case where I wouldn't mind either way.
No, I don't know what he'd have to do. He'd have to turn into Ian Happ.
Right.
For me to be mad if he came back.
Right.
Like the Cubs, they're going to be in the same situation where last year. They're going to be fucked when he leaves because they're not going to replace him. They replaced him with him this year, and that was like an accident. Like, they really weren't even, planning to do it. And all of a sudden, well, I guess we can bring Cody back. Think how bad that offense would be if they hadn't gotten him back.
Yeah. I mean, he was out for a little while. We know how bad the offense was.
Yeah. Isn't that good?
Granted, there's also Suzuki out, but still. It's not like Theo's been tearing the cover off the ball since he came back.
Yeah, hot start, right? But
yeah, well, since he came
got
back.
hurt. Yeah, exactly.
The whole offense has been bad. But
yeah, Bush hasn't done anything since he
homered
every day in the West Coast. He came back and he's hit one.
But you expect that. I mean, like, thank God those guys hit when they did, because the season could have been sunk with the injuries. I mean, it is a blessing and a good sign. Obviously, I'm sure we've all considered it, that in spite of all that, that they're where they're at. I feel good about it. I mean, right now they're a little bit precarious, but now the guys are coming back. So,
well, there are only in the entire National League, there are only 5 teams who are above 500.
Oh,
and the Cubs are
is that
one.
right?
Yes.
And they're the 5th best record, I thought.
Yes.
So there's every team.
The Padres came in tonight
500,
25 and 25.
Okay.
But it's the Phillies, the Braves, the Brewers, the Cubs, and the Dodgers. That's it.
Okay.
So they have not, they haven't sunk themselves. They actually have made it through.
Their opponents, I feel like they've had a pretty good strength of schedule early on.
Yeah, their schedule gets easier as it goes.
Yeah, they've had the Dodgers and Rangers and Braves and.
So they should go on a, if they ever get healthy. And that's I think Clapp pointed this out. They literally they were healthy for 90 minutes this year. Till
90 minutes,
about an hour and a half into the opener, Justin Steele's laying in the grass, and it's just been one injury after another after that.
But that's not unique to them.
No, it's not. That's why you need to be deeper than they are, and that's why being afraid of the luxury tax fucks you, because when you're paying Ian Happ $20 million, and then you're paying Seiya real money and Cody real money, then you're just gonna backfill with cheap guys, and if all of a sudden they have to play, you need to be better at picking the cheap guys than they have been. You end up with Miles Mastrobuoni and Nick Madrigal as your middle infield for a week, and they're like, oh God, that's not good.
They're paying about $20 million to Bodie, Mancini, and Barnhart. Right? What about $5 million, $7 million? And
where even is Barnhart? Where's Mancini? So they're still on the books? My God.
Tucker is in the big leagues, I think.
Yeah.
Trey is not.
Signing checks from the Cubs. Both of them.
Tucker is a Diamondback.
Mm-hmm.
Lighting it up. 182, 333, 220, slugging 227. Ian Happ is like, look at that. You're only slugging 227. You suck.
If Ian Happ were, Gold Glove caliber catcher.
If only.
His Barnhart is pretty good back there, but whatever. Yeah.
Trey is not anywhere.
Yeah. Bellinger, I think, like that brings up an interesting point, because we talked about all of these kids, and at some point you got to see what you have with them. And hopefully you're still good into September this year, so it's not going to be, you can't afford to give them, 40 at-bats, 40 plate appearances a month. Maybe you can. I don't know.
Yeah, the one guy you're not going to see anytime soon is the guy I thought I want to just make the team out of the spring is Matt Shaw.
Shaw. Yeah. Have you looked at his numbers early on?
Oh, no.
He struggled.
He's at 208 with a 344 on base, but a 328 slug at Double-A.
I think that's a good thing.
He's striking out a lot. He's also walking a fair amount, which is good.
Take the pressure off him. Yeah.
He's 22. That's the right age for that league. It's not like he's not old for that league. I mean, that was the Michael Busch thing where it's like, oh yeah, he was the PCL MVP. It's like, yeah, he's 26 years old, still in the PCL. You should be able to hit there.
Well, I mean, what about Owen Casey? I know he probably has never been projected more than a corner outfielder, but did he not also get off the pretty high? I saw some. I mean, he seems about ready, right? I mean, there's some. I don't know what they can contribute other than, some power, some pop offensively, but it does seem like
he's hitting it. It's hard, right? Because Iowa
reinforced.
It's so hard to tell. I mean, like Mervis is like the perfect example of they can't get him out at Iowa, and he comes up and he can't get a hit. However, the problem Mervis has is the problem that scouts identified that his problem would be. And he doesn't hit anything thrown really hard. So it was not a surprise when he came to the big leagues and he couldn't hit. It's not like they're like, this is a can't miss. This guy's hitting 380 in AAA. He's going to light it up. There were a lot of scouts who were like, all right, we'll see. And he couldn't hit. They don't say that about Casey. He's not a guy that they think is going to come up and suck. It's just a matter of when you actually think he's ready. But he's not coming up because they've got.
He's not. Well,
they've painted themselves into a log jam in the outfit that they refuse to admit that they.
Well, and is Casey
really
even on the 40-man right now? Oleg, do you know offhand if he? I don't know that he is. I know Brennan Davis is, which is why I figured that was even easier.
I was worried they might drop him at the when they were looking to clear spots at the end, and they didn't, and that was so clearly they were like, okay, no, he's still got a shot, and he did.
Yeah.
Let's look at the 40-man roster and let's see if Owen KCC is on it.
Yeah, he's 21.
Wow, so that means what? It's been 10 years ago since we traded you for him? Is that what it was? Right. He was the
10 years ago? It seems like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they traded you. Why you, not YOU.
I don't see him on the 40-man.
He's not
I forgot about Alexander Canario. He's still, bouncing around. Brennan. And Alcantara. Yeah, we've got him covered. We got a few guys that it wouldn't hurt to call up.
I love how seldom Major League Baseball updates the weights. Morel forever was 135 pounds because they weighed him like 15 years ago. Alexander Canario is listed 5'11", 165. His left leg weighs 165 pounds.
Big man.
Oh, they still have Morel listed at 145.
That's amazing.
He's 200 pounds, 145 pounds. But they weighed him when he was like 12, right after he stuck his arm through the window.
Yeah, they got Nick Madrigal, 5'8", 175.
He's on his tippy toes.
He's 40 pounds more than Morel.
Yeah. 30-pound difference in Madrigal's favor.
Oh my God.
So on Friday was it Friday? Saturday. One of the 2 days. I was working on the yard and I had my headphones in and decided the Cubs are on. I'm going to put it on. I was so afraid that it was going to be Zach Zaidman that I just immediately went to the Pirates radio feed. I didn't even mess with it. I just went right to the Pirates.
That's usually what I do sometimes if I have it on MLB. I just go to the other call.
And it was Greg Brown, their longtime radio announcer, and
so you heard live the whole play-by-play for the end of the game. Saturday was the walk-off, right? Or is that what you're going to say? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It wasn't Greg Brown. Greg Brown's the TV guy, not the radio guy. Is that what you're
nodding? But either way, I figured everybody in Pittsburgh was all a flutter.
This was Friday. This was the Skeens.
My bad.
Almost throwing it away.
No, Skeens was Saturday.
That was Saturday. Sunday was the controversial.
The walk-off.
Yeah, I don't understand why it was controversial. Joey Bart didn't hang onto the ball. Cody's safe no matter what.
And he was probably safe anyway.
It looked like his foot was on the plate before he got tagged anyway. They're Pirates. They're begging for wins. But anyway, their radio
Saturday,
were
the Hendricks Skeens matchup.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Kyle was throwing batting practice, and I was listening to them, and then I'm like, I wonder if, and I flipped it over, and Pat was there. And but then it was almost the fifth inning, so I had to switch back because Zach was going to fill in. But on Sunday, we were left with there was nowhere to hide because Boog was off doing Sunday Night Baseball, which meant Pat would have gone to the booth, but Pat was off. I don't know I don't know what the family issues are that he's having. I'm sure maybe a family member is off to Trembling Pines, but he's going to go visit. But he wasn't there, so you got Zach on TV, which that should not be allowed to happen. Ever.
Yeah, and Matt was on Spiegel.
And then Spiegel filled in on the radio. There's nowhere to go.
Wow.
Yeah, I got on Saturday. I flew into Denver and I got to listen on Sirius XM. What I found out was the Odyssey app is localized during Cubs games. So
yes,
I could listen to the Cubs game on Odyssey. So I couldn't even listen to Pat on Saturday. So I had to listen to Sirius XM on my phone because the car I had didn't have it. And they also didn't have Android Auto because I'm one of those guys. And so I was listening to these guys, who's the radio announcers for the Pirates?
I thought it was, they have a cast of thousands as their analyst.
Anyway, the audio engineer hates that play-by-play guy. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
It just yells random time. It's the weirdest thing. very homer, which is fine. I don't really like it. It was a little annoying, just being a Cubs fan. It was just annoying listening, to the Pirates hit home run after home run off of was that Hendricks?
Sure.
No, it was Steele on Saturday. It was Steele against Skeens, and but then I parked the car because I had to meet a buddy for dinner or for late lunch, whatever it was, and I missed all of the walks. I missed the whole walk show, and I would have loved to hear the Pirates announcer call that.
Their TV and radio play-by-play guys are Greg Brown and Joe Block. I don't know if they do the old Harry Milo thing where they trade.
Milo.
Switch.
But then listen to this guy. So their primary TV broadcast color guy is Bob Walk.
Yeah, that's right. Pretty good, right?
Yeah, he's fine. He's filled in for Steve Blass, who was just the biggest. He replaced Steve, who was the biggest
Steve Blass, I
ever.
remember. Yeah.
John Wayner is one of their announcers.
Oh.
Kevin Young.
John Wayner and Kevin Young were both, I swear they were both call-ups for the Pirates in 93 after the Barry Bonds era. Around the time Al Martin would have been called up, right after all those losers. So interesting to get to hang around.
Kevin Young was the first baseman, right?
Yeah. Kevin Young, Al Martin, who looked like the Big Hurt, and
we're not done.
John Wayner. That was another one.
Matt Capps does some radio and TV. The old relief pitcher, right?
Is that right?
Yeah, CAPPS.
CAPPS, Matt Capps. Former Cub killer Neil Walker. Is
Neil Walker.
Neil Walker.
Yeah.
And then there's Hannah Mears, Rob King, Michael McHenry. McHenry played, he was a third string catcher forever with the Rockies and I guess the Pirates. Yep. Stephen Brault.
I remember Stephen Brault.
Former Cub,
pitcher.
Stephen Brault.
Oh, he pitched for the Cubs too.
Jordy Mercer.
Okay.
How many guys do they need?
How many?
And
Alex Presley.
And
some of these guys are studio analysts too.
Right, but every single one that was a ball player could not have been a more nondescript.
Yeah. I'm amazed Rob McCoyak is not on this.
Right.
On this.
Because he's slightly too memorable because of that Memorial Day weekend. They're all very just only vaguely memorable. We all recognize the names, but none of them. That's so funny.
Rob blew his chance to be on the TV or radio team when he hit those home runs off.
Yeah.
LaTroy.
He's not so obscure.
Yeah. That's fun.
Sorry. Well, there goes your TV and radio career. What?
Right.
Although Bob Walk pitched forever.
He did, and he pitched in the World Series for the 1980 Philadelphia Phillies.
He won 105 games in the big leagues, 82 of them with the Pirates.
Yeah. Good pitcher. Came up with Philly, and then most of the 80s we remember from the Pirates.
And Pat loved him because, he's
right.
Hilarious to have a pitcher named Walk. Although, do you know the guy who Pat loved even more?
Over the weekend?
A terrible name.
Who?
Grant Ball 4.
Yes.
Oh, God, yeah.
The worst name you possibly could have for a pitcher is Grant Ball 4.
There are a few of those. Yeah, Pat's pretty good at sniffing those out.
Oh, he loves the puns. But my whole thing is, this can't be allowed. I mean, you're the third biggest media market in the country.
Right.
The Cubs are the second most popular sporting team in the city. One of the top 10 in the nation.
Yeah.
You can't have Zach Zaidman and Matt Spiegel as your backups.
This cannot be a training ground for you guys to learn. Zaidman is so ingratiating. He worms his way into the broadcast, even from behind the scenes with that cackle, which is frankly unprofessional. But he's somehow empowered and sort of emboldened to allow his cackle to get caught up.
Not easy to do it, is it, Pat? To talk through that.
And it's so many little things that would he'd go out of his way. Remember, at the peak of the Javier Baez era, when he had the nickname El Mago. It was perfect. It was sweet. It was short. You knew what it meant, magician. And he insisted every time he would do something. He goes, "Yes, Javier Baez, the magic man." He had to anglify it. Cultural appropriation aside, why are you doing that? It takes so much. He's just a fucking tryhard, and you just know that he just knows how to kiss the right ass. I don't know if it's Crane Kenny or I don't know how he Mark Grody. I love Mark Grody. He didn't feel the need to insert himself into the broadcast. He did his job. He did his pregame. He did his postgame. He was there for the World Series, and then they switch him with Zaidman and the Bears, and all of a sudden Zaidman is part of the broadcast. Why? How did that happen?
I think it would be awesome if the Cubs just handed Zaidman's job to Nick Madrigal.
Or
I would do it.
And
have you ever heard Nick talk?
No.
He sounds exactly like you think he would. He talks like this. It's amazing. Hi. Oh. What a play. Because I've said it before, and I know it's true. You know when he feels the ball at third, and he has to take like the 6 steps.
Right.
You know he's going
right
before he throws.
It helps
that's
him
why
focus.
they just think he's adorable. They can't let him go. He's like an Ewok.
They hear it as the ball travels from third to first.
Yeah, usually with the third baseman, you hear the wind whipping off the ball. You hear that.
Right.
With Nick, you hear and then nothing.
He has to provide his own auditory. Here to close the book on the broadcast. Here is the thought I just occurred to me this week, Andy. Is all right. Our fear is that it's the idiots like Crane that are in charge, and that they're greasing the skids for Zach to take over because they hate us, and it will just make listening to the games punishable. But if that's not the case, or if like things reverse course and like they make a decision, they have somebody in charge all of a sudden that actually gets it, like how they hired counsel and we're kind of relieved because he's going to let Morrell play. What if when Pat retires, they just bring Len back and put him in the radio booth from wherever he's doing? I don't know, managing a Portillo's in Orland Hills, I think. But
it's funny you should say that because the last time John Greenberg was on, after we got done recording, we were bullshitting for a little while, and I asked him that, and he said, he basically said, I think that will happen.
Wow, I love it. Make it happen.
Now, my fear is, the Zach thing could be. We have experience with this in Chicago. It's Jeff Joniak. Zach Zaidman his way into that job, and he's had it forever, and he's fucking horrible. He's actually worse. He's a worse football announcer than Zach is a baseball announcer. Zach is annoying because he's annoying. And although he is also bad, he can't judge fly balls. It's some of it is pretty funny. And he's like really, you could tell he's conscious of it. Like he can't get excited at the right times because he thinks he's going to be wrong, which is great.
Guessing his instincts.
But
great.
At least in baseball, it's easier because there's a lot more dead time, but at least you can listen and he'll give you the score and the count occasionally.
Fair enough.
Where with Joniak, I mean, we've documented you can go 10 minutes and you don't know what the score is and you don't know where the ball is. It's like I can't fucking see the game, Jeff. Yeah. Your only job is you're literally, what does Pat say? Pat always says Pat Hughes reporting from Wrigley Field because that's what he thinks. That's what the play-by-play announcer is. They're a reporter. You are telling the people what's happening so they can absorb, they can understand what's going on in the game. And Joniak doesn't do it and can't do it. He's worse. They're both terrible, but he's worse. Well, I do worry about it. But I mean, we know now after the fact that Len left Marquee because he felt like the Mikes who were in charge, Mike McCarthy and Mike Santini, didn't care for him. They didn't like Len's version of a broadcast. They want this like slick national feel to the broadcast. Yeah, and they didn't. His contract was going to be up in a year, and he's like, I don't know if they're going to bring me back. And the White Sox job was open, and he could take it, and he could stay in town. And he really did. A lot of it was he over-exaggerated how much he'd always want to do radio. So he'd call a World Series, which is hilarious now to say he's going to call a World Series with the White Sox.
Right, because the Sox are the worst team in baseball.
But he basically pulled the ripcord and got out before Marquee could basically fuck him over and say, no, we're going a different direction with the broadcast. His problem was with Marquee. It wasn't with the Cubs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Pat, I don't know, how old is Pat? 70?
He's been in broadcasting for 42 years or some sort.
He's been the Cubs since 96. He was in his...
Yep. And he felt like an old man, but that's just his nature. He felt like an old man. He probably felt like an old man here. That's not that old.
No, he could do this for another 15 years.
15 years, yeah.
So Len better eat his wheat. Len will be 68 if that happens.
Right.
Before he can finally come back.
That makes you feel better. That actually makes you feel better, unless he pulls some bullshit and retires early to enjoy life and stuff. Because
Nick Madrigal is killing his enjoyment of baseball.
Right.
Wouldn't it be great if Pat all of a sudden, like tonight, Pat all of a sudden is like, you know what, Ron? Fuck it. I can't watch this little fucker play anymore. I'm going home. Screw you.
And we'll have Nick
Zach,
to blame.
get your cackling ass down here. You finish the game because I'm not watching this bullshit anymore.
The fact that Pat is only 68 gives me hope that Zach Zaidman's ascension to the booth is not imminent, nor will it likely ever happen.
Maybe his goal is to announce as long as Bob Uecker, in which case he's here for at least another 22 years.
Yeah.
Maybe Zach Zaidman's also 68.
Yeah, he's got a red ass to go with the red hair, so he's probably aging prematurely.
Right.
Yeah, I don't care for Zach Zaidman.
No, he's the worst. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is the final member of the greatest team we'll ever see play, the 2016 Cubs, is hanging on to his roster spot now by a thread. Kyle Hendricks has lost his spot in the rotation. He gave us a brief glimpse of, or a little shot of confidence a couple of Sundays ago when he comes off the injury list from his fake injury. 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 run against the Pirates. Like, okay, good. He'll be fine. Well, the Pirates got a second crack at him, and they annihilated him. 11 hits, 8 runs. And so now he's off to the bullpen, and everybody's like, oh, good. Take the guy throwing at 84 miles an hour. We'll put him in the pen. He can come out. But what if he reinvents himself and he becomes the new Doug Jones?
He's going to close 100 games?
Yeah, he can pitch for another 10 years.
Yeah, screw you, Ryan Dempster.
He gets 300 saves before he's done throwing 83 miles an hour.
The new Doug Jones.
Can you imagine Doug Jones playing now?
Rod Beck was not a fireballer either, though, right?
Like, well, Rod started that way, and then it just kind of. I don't know if Doug, like, do you think he got hurt at some point? Like, he was a fireballer, and then he got hurt, and he just figured out, well, shit, I can still get dudes out. And he did.
Yeah.
He wasn't very good in his Cub year.
No, not on opening day 1996. He failed to close that one, but Gracie bailed us out that day.
But do you think this would be great? What if Kyle goes to counsel and says, all right, I'll go to the bullpen, but I need a month. It's like, what do you mean you need a month? I need a month. You got to put me back on the injured list. And he comes back in a month, and he's got a mullet, and he's got a huge mustache, and he's gone full 80s closer.
That'd be great.
Basically Kenny Powers coming out of the bullpen.
There have been other soft tossing, Trevor Hoffman was known for his changeup, right?
Yeah, just throw the changeup all the time.
So I think you might be onto something.
Yeah, when Doug Jones pitched for the 96 Cubs, it was over, right? He was a 5 ERA.
Yeah.
And he pitched 5 more seasons in the big leagues.
Yeah, he actually did pitch after that. The Cubs gave up on him in favor of Turk Wendell.
The next year, so the Cubs got rid of him, and the Brewers picked him up. And the next year, he led the American League, right? 97? Was that the end of the Brewers were still in the American League, right?
Yeah, it was their last season in the American League.
Led the American League in appearances with 73. He had 36 saves and a 2.02 ERA. He only gave up 62 hits in 80 innings. How about this? He struck out 82 in 80 innings, and he walked 9.
Wow.
Well, the Cubs only walked 4
in
28 games.
Did the Brewers make the playoffs in 97?
No.
When did they? When were they good? Oh, it must have been the Cecil Fielder years. What I'm thinking of.
2008, 2009, I think.
Yeah, that was the Matthew, right?
Wow.
When they pitched them.
Yeah, the Brewers made the playoffs in 81 and 82.
Yeah, right.
And then not again until 8, 11, and then 18, 19, 20, 21, and 23.
Yeah. Oh, 2008. So, okay.
It might be one of the few teams even the White Sox can look down on as far as number of playoff games.
They haven't been around. They haven't been around that long.
No, but I mean, even in the expansion era.
Yeah.
They never made the playoffs as the Seattle Pilots. In their 1 year there where they won 64 games.
But they had Jim Bouton.
Yeah, pounded some Budweisers.
It's, just with Hendricks, I don't know how he's going to hang on. It's funny to consider. But, and also, it's just funny to consider that it's been just a full decade now since he made his debut. It's interesting to mark time that way, that we get older, time goes faster and all that. July 10th, 2014. And, it almost made me, I was thinking about it, almost kind of made me nostalgic. I was at kind of the front end of that whole ascension. But Hendricks was not a guy on anyone's radar. It'd be a few months, like a month after that, when we had the palate cleanser that was Arizmendi Alcantara before everybody came in. But like, he came in under the radar. He's actually the one reason we could put up with Ryan Dempster.
The Arizmendi Alcantara was good for a week. They cleansed our palates for a week, maybe 10 days.
But just a call.
I know.
Just a call up though was like, we knew about Baez, we knew about Soler, we knew about Bryant was already in the Oregon. I think they just drafted Schwarber.
Yeah.
But we had to first get exposed to Arizmendi. But like, my point is, prior to that, Hendricks had been called up, but nobody thought he was never impressive. He put up good numbers at AA, but we of course remember he's the one reason that, the one good thing that comes out of having to suffer through Ryan Dempster is that at least his refusal to accept the first trade yielded us Hendricks.
Don't you think in the Cub multiverse, which would be a scary thing to ever venture into, don't you think one of the branches off the thing, Randall Delgado wins like 25 games a year for like 8 years, and his tweet says they did a trade, and he goes to the Cubs instead of did a trade, and he never gets to come.
It's scary to think that was 10 years ago, of course, and longer than that, because I think it was in 2013, right? Was it towards the end of the previous year? Because 2014 is when Hendricks got called up. I think he was with Double. I remember he was like 10-1. I remember getting poo-pooed on the old Discipio message board because, I was a meatball. I'm like, hey, this guy's 10-1. Like, oh, he doesn't have any peripherals. And that was pretty much the story of his major league career. Like, everybody always underestimated him. And, at his peak, we kind of thought maybe he could be like a Greg Maddux, but no, he never had that velocity. But he, did draw the comps because of his erudite approach.
What I remember about the reason Dempster turned the trade to Atlanta down was he so badly wanted to go to the Dodgers,
right?
And they didn't want him, and he kept blocking the idea of trades because he was trying to keep the Dodgers open. And one of the funniest things about it was he was telling people about what a bright future the Dodgers had because of their young pitchers like Allen Webster. And he kept making a huge deal out of Allen Webster. And then finally, he got traded. That trade happened like 2 minutes before the deadline. Theo was like, you have to fucking say yes because the Dodgers don't want you. And you can't go to the Dodgers. You might as well go to the Rangers. You might pitch in the playoffs. And so he said yes. But his last year in the big leagues, he pitched for the Red Sox, and his teammate was Allen Webster. He finally got to play with Allen Webster, who had like an 8 ERA for those Red Sox. What a keen eye for talent old Ryan Dempster had.
Oh, man.
It was the happy coincidence of Ryan Dempster's existence was that we landed Kyle Hendricks inadvertently. So I guess I'll give begrudging thanks to his indolent ass.
There's some weird ass trades that or trade stories in Cubs lore, right? Like Phil Nevin trading himself.
Yeah.
Dempster doing this.
Scott Boras traded Greg Maddux for Cesar Izturis.
Right.
Basically, Henry told Greg, he's like, if Scott wants to find a place you're willing to go ahead. And within like an hour, they called Henry and said, how about the Dodgers for Cesar Izturis? He's like, okay,
yeah. The Matt Lawton thing, right? Getting him and then trading.
Yeah, that whole weird, the whole
Jody Garrett,
Matt Lawton. Yeah. So they trade for Jody Garrett, and then before the deadline, they make another trade. They get Lawton for Garrett, and then before the deadline, then they completely fall on their ass. So before the waiver deadline, they trade Lawton. He goes to the Yankees. Right. He flunks a steroid test, and he hardly ever plays for the Yankees.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yep. Yeah, that's a lot of weirdness. I don't know if other teams have that, and I'm just overplaying the Cubs one, but that's a lot of weird shit.
I feel like I feel like we knew more of the behind the scenes shit during the Hendry era. Like his good old Boy Scouts were just telling reporters shit that Theo and those guys wouldn't tell people because they didn't care because it doesn't really matter. Afterwards, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we almost traded for this guy," or hey, we had a deal done for them, but this got fucked up, or whatever. They would tell people that, and the khaki guys won't ever do that. They'll, everything's top secret, and it's in my super secret database, and unless what's the guy's name, Chris Correa, unless he has the password, Epstein. What was it? No, it was Eckstein something. David Eckstein's name was actually the password. Yeah, I read a book about that thing, Winning Fix. I'm pointing at it There's a book over here, Winning Fixes Everything by Evan Drellick. And he talks about the, Oleg's waving again. He talks about how, so when those guys left, like Jeff Luhnow and those guys left the Cardinals, went to the Astros, everybody knew they were going to take the Cardinals had developed this proprietary scouting thing. And the guys that worked on it the most were the ones who left to go to the Astros. And the Cardinals were like, all those fuckers are going to do is they're just going to take the code and they're just going to put a new skin on it and they're going to call it something else. And they were literally talking about it. And Correa's like, I'll bet they knew what one of the guys, like Sig Mendenhall or whatever his name is. They knew what his password was on the old St. Louis one. And they're like, I'll bet it's the same thing on theirs. And so they guessed what the URL was because it would be similar. And he got in. And that was the whole reason he got in. And all he had to do was prove he could do it, but he didn't. He went in and they were taking stuff out and they were doing all the shit they ended up going to prison for because it was committing a federal crime.
These are in the days before two-step authentication.
Nowadays, I have like 3 different Google passwords I can never remember, and I always have to change the password and send it to my phone. And I got to have a code. Then I got to go to the email. Actually, the worst is our fucking Yahoo Fantasy League. Get into that, it's like Fort Knox. If I don't do it on my phone, there's like 8 steps. And I'm like, send that to we send it to your phone, but now we're going to send it to your email. Like, why? Who's going to go in and mess with my team? I wish they would. Maybe we'd win more. Go ahead, hack it up. So anyway, we've decided that Kyle Hendricks is going to go to the bullpen. I don't know if you heard this, Mike, because you wandered off. He's going to take a month off. He's going to grow the mullet and the big mustache.
I heard that. And then
it's going to be amazing.
And then Sweet Emotion will be his walkout song, except it won't be ironic. It'll actually be, he's kind of a Meadowline or whatever.
Now, does the Cub lack of a closer, I guess it's Hector Neris right now, but, they bought they paid for the fancy lights. Other teams that have, like, big-time closers, like, what is it, John, how does Duran say his first name? J-H, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
Him. Camilo Doval with the Giants.
Yep.
I think Clase has one with the Indians. I mean, nowadays it's not like, I remember we thought it was kind of cool. Kimbrel actually came with a song, and so they would crank it, and he would come in out of the. But these guys, like, they turn in San Francisco, they turn all the lights off. They have an orange spotlight that shines on the bullpen and follows Doval out, and then the lights slowly come back on as he runs to the mound. It's awesome.
That is awesome.
The Cubs. They don't have. I mean, they use 6 different closers a week, so there's and a lot of. And the Cubs should do it during day games. Put the spotlight on. Everybody's like, "Is that a spotlight?" I don't know, but maybe Kyle could turn that all around. And the most flamboyant pitcher in Cub history, Kyle Hendricks, comes flying in out of the bullpen.
Right.
Do the karate crotch chop like Rick Vaughn. And then like slam the ball in his glove and spin around. I think he has to do it. I think that's
a whole second act,
and then give up 8 runs and get booed off the field, and that's all be over.
That is a whole upgrade on the Mariano Rivera coming out to enter Sandman, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, but yeah, I think your point is they've upped their game. I think it kind of turned the corner with Mets. What's his name?
Yeah.
He missed last year,
Edwin, right?
With
Edwin Diaz.
Yeah, with the whole Marriott. Yeah, the whole.
With the.
Yeah. Right. It's kind of gone NBA. This sounds pretty funny though.
It is funny though because there you have choices to make, right? Like, what if it's not a save situation? What if it's like a 4-run lead, but they're bringing him in because a couple guys got on and now they got to use the closer? Do you go through the whole thing?
Well, I think.
What do you do if he has to come in the 8th to try to get a 4-out save? Do you do it then, or is it you only do it in the 9th? What happens, what happens if he blows like 3 saves in a row and now you're bringing him out and you're still going to do the whole light show?
The booing is trying to drown it out. Yeah, I think an intro song is an intro song, right? You come in, you get it. I mean, right? That's how it works nowadays.
When you get it when you come out of the dugout in the 9th, if you start the 8th.
Well, whenever you do it, like whenever Kimbrel would come in to play sweet.
They make you go back out to the bullpen.
Yeah.
You got to. I know you're in the game. Can you run out to the bullpen and come back? Because otherwise the timing won't work. Yeah. What? And what would sweaty Joe Borowski's song have been? I mean, this would have been.
It'd be a polka of some sort. I'm guessing.
Borowski would come out to Olivia Newton-John's "Let's Get Physical."
Sure, why not?
Could have been gonna make you sweat. That would have been a good one for.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Right. I got you. Yeah. And I'll sweat. That part of the Billy Idol song. There you go. That's it.
I don't know that Joe embraced the whole Sweaty Joe thing as much as maybe myself. We did. He might not have leaned into the Sweaty Joe nickname.
He might not find it so funny that day that he had to face Barry Bonds at the peak of his roidness that he was just dripping a whole shower off the
his pants weren't wet from sweat that day. That was a different liquid. But I wonder, what would Joe look like in the road grays this year? Because those things get pretty dark. The Fanatics, Carlos Rodon looks like he's wearing a black shirt by pitch 8. It's a completely different color. You really shouldn't be allowed to not wear a shirt under the jersey with these Fanatics things because, he doesn't. And you get this big sweat circle around the 5.5 on the back before he's out of the bullpen. It's like, they're going to fix it next year, Carlos. Could you maybe wear a shirt for the rest of the year?
Somewhere, Phil Nevin is violently shaking his head.
Chris Coughlin. Nobody loved to go show the chest like the great Chris Coughlin. He'd have it button. You could see his belly button when he's batting. It's like, Jesus, you realize you suck, right?
Except when he jumped over Yadi Molina, right?
Yeah.
Did he
did. For a guy who I just didn't like, he did two really cool things. The time against the Cardinals when he tried to call timeout and he didn't get it, and he swung at the pitch and again drove in a run with a single to right field.
Yep.
And then literally jumping over Yadi to score a run for the Blue Jays. I mean, those are. I'm a big enough man. I'll give those were enjoyable moments.
Begrudgingly.
Yeah. And he also annoyingly, although the whole Addison Russell thing, he got right in all the pictures when they won the World Series.
Oh, yeah.
He made a beeline, and you would have thought he was on. He was was he in the infield when the final out was made? He's in the middle of all the infielders jumping up and down. And so you look at the pictures like, ugh. But then now you look and Addison is in there too, and he was like, well, I wish Coughlin had actually gotten in between Addison and the camera. But Addison Russell and Mickey Mantle are the two youngest players ever to hit a Grand Slam in a World Series. So.
Oh, is that right? Because I just was listening to some weird podcast and came across the 96 World Series where Andrew Jones, when he hit those 2 homers in 96. He was like
the youngest player ever to hit one, right? Or was it still Mickey?
Yes. I believe he and Mickey were the only 19-year-olds to homer in the World Series. And then, of course, Andrew joined Gene Tennis as the only 2 players to hit homers in the first 2.
I think Mickey and Addison were both 22 when they hit their Grand Slams in the World Series.
Okay.
It's not fair, though. Mickey had lots of chances. He played in the World Series every year.
I know.
Yep, 22. All right, guys. Well, this was fun. Thank you for filling in, Mike.
I'm glad my I'm glad to have participated in this discussion of Kyle Hendricks, bullpen extraordinaire, and everything else.
I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be great.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah. Can't wait.
I'll be fine. He'll be fine. Gotta hope he's fine.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Many of us have herpes.
No, I thought it generally sucked. I didn't think it was a specific suck. I thought it was like an all-encompassing type of suck. So, we're going to try and rectify that. But for right now, I'm going to be pretty pissed about it.
It's fitting. It's got to be done with one of the best games of all time. Just unbelievable. Got to congratulate the Dolan family.